Hi, everybody. We're trying a new setup. I'm using like an actual camera. So let me know if this works and if you can hear me, because we just scratched the microphone idea and are now just going with the camera. But hopefully the camera quality is better because we figured out how to hook my camera up to this. So good evening. Sorry, I'm once again late. I don't think I've ever been on time to one of these ever. So thanks. The same person is responsible for all of these delays, if you could imagine it. 3 is hard. 3 is just like a lot. I feel like ever since the time change, it's just been like a struggle. Whenever people were always like, oh, toddlers are like going to bed is such an issue. I feel like that was the one thing we had that it wasn't an issue. And now it is like, it's an issue. We've arrived. So as always with these lives, I don't have anything we're not going to do, I think in the beginning we were doing things where it was like, oh, like let's pick a topic and blah, blah, blah. And I just ran out of ideas. So, okay, good. Can people hear me? I hope so. Well, we'll just go with that. What was I even saying? I don't even remember. Oh, we're just going to do whatever questions you guys have, whatever tangents we end up on. I'll probably be here for like a little bit, around an hour, maybe a little bit less, and I'll get to as many questions as I possibly can. So if you leave them there, if it's something I've made a video on, I'll probably just reference that just because it's easier. And then we'll just kind of like hang out and we'll see how it goes. Okay, let me see okay, good. You can hear. Threenagers are hard. Becky, they are. I was not prepared for 3, even remotely. All right, let me go back up to the top and we'll see. Does it look better when I use my camera? I'm using a camera instead of my computer. Just tell me it looks better. Joe and I were YouTubing this forever. We accidentally made a live that some of you saw where like we were just like hanging out and like troubleshooting, and I made a lot of weird faces, and a lot of you were like, there's a video on the internet I don't think you meant to have on the internet. And I was like, you know what? You are exactly right. So it's a learning curve. Everything is totally fine. Okay. First, Julie Puppy, what did you major in? I majored in psychology with like an emphasis on neuropsychology. I thought I was going to go to med school. And then I went back and my second degree was I did like an accelerated nursing program. Michelle, oh yes, good. Yes, I did. She answered the question for me. She said, I think she majored in psychology. Yes, very, very true. The random degree it's kind of like a filler. I feel like psychology is such a filler because you can't do anything with it. You have to go on and do something else. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, what else is like that? I don't know. That might be one of the only ones. I feel like everything else you can kind of find a niche for, but psychology, it's kind of like, what do you plan on doing with that, friend? Paige, I'm going to watch this live and do the dishes. Woot woot, dancing emoji while my children are sleeping. I'm excited. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for being excited to be here, friends. I know it's been a minute. My schedule has been, I feel like, totally messed up because I've just been like, I don't know. I've been a mess. Zoloft is helping a lot, but I've just like, I don't have time. And I was really stressing myself out to try to like stick to my schedule, which was like a video every week. And then I just decided that, I'm just going to like do what I can and it's going to be fine. And I appreciate all of you for being understanding, but that's why things have been spotty, is because like, if I don't have time, instead of staying up until 2:00 in the morning, like I used to, I just go to bed. So that's my new life thing, is just, doing that. So things are like a mess here until I figure out, I don't know, where to find more time in my days. I made that. I've talked to some other people and they're like, oh yeah, well, you need like a day at home, to do stuff like at home. But but then I would have to send the girl somewhere. I'm like, but the whole point of like doing this is so that, one, I just like it. And if I have to do it, then it becomes less like I like it. And then it's more like I have to do it. And I never wanted to be that. And then 2, this is a tangent none of you asked for, but you're all here. And then 2 was that I would have to put my girls in daycare. I'm like, the whole reason, like, part of doing this, like, and making it like my job is so that I don't have to put them into, I don't know, I'm a mess. Thanks for listening to that. You're going to be my therapist for a little while, because I looked into BetterHelp, and yeah, that's like really expensive. Like, holy cow. I was like, oh, I'll just go and everyone's going to therapy. And then I'm like, how do people go to therapy? Maybe their insurance covers it. Mine doesn't. Like, you have to hit your deductible. And I was just like, so I looked into like, and I'm like, if I'm going to pay for it by myself, like I'm going to do that. And then I looked, and then BetterHelp seemed like it was just like texting. And I've done it before and it was okay. Like for postpartum depression, it was really good. I did it a long time ago for that. And then I had to stop because I couldn't afford it. But I feel like for a lot of the stuff I would want to talk about now, like I don't want to text all my feelings out. If you guys have done it, let me know. Some people are, Michelle's saying, don't do BetterHelp. It's basically buying a friend for an hour a week. Yeah, that's not what I want. And then I feel like you're having a hard time with Avery. I am having a hard time with Avery. Sweet, beloved girl, but whoa, I'm having a hard time with Avery. We have talked to, I don't really talk about like all of like their kind of business. I mean, I do, but like Avery's okay. She's just strong-willed. Nora was saying like, when do you need to go and seek like child like development, something. And I actually brought that up with our pediatrician. I was like, because it's very different being the parent of a 3-year-old versus like being the person who learns about 3-year-olds in textbooks and working as a peds nurse. I was like, oh, I've got this. Like, I know how to deal with all the toddler things. And then I had one and I lived with her all the time. And I was like, can you hear her in the background? She's singing the ABCs. I thought she was screaming. She's just singing the ABCs for you. You might be able to hear her. And so I brought it up with the person, and the person was basically saying, the pediatrician wasn't quite as helpful. However, I do have a patient that is, we're talking about like childhood development here in case you're lost. Avery is like, she's just a lot. I talked to one of my patients because, when your patients come in and you're like, oh, what do you do for a living? And then you pry them. I'm like, I know you're here to seek my help, but I'm actually going to turn this entire appointment around and I'm going to have you treat my child for free. But I'm not going to treat you for free. So I wasn't quite that bad, but it was kind of that situation. I was like, so hypothetically, if your child, and she was able to tell me that for most children, if they are behaving in one situation, but not another, so say at home, there's more emotions, but they're okay when they go to like daycare, then that is a really good sign. That's showing you kind of when they're at home, they're comfortable enough to let out all of their feelings. And they didn't necessarily, she's like, I don't know what like we would really do if behaviors are consistent across different areas. So kind of like when you're learning about like ADHD and all of those things, you have to have behaviors in more than one setting in order for it to be a problem, not like a problem, but you know what I mean? Like in order for it to be something that you could then do something about. So, and then she gave me some tips and tricks. A lot of it we already do. I really am into the kind of like gentle, respectful parenting thing where, and that's just a lot of like trying to, take emotions and not make it that emotions are like bad. They're just like expressions. And like, obviously there's like discipline involved with it, but to not try to, I don't know, like make everything like she's allowed to have outbursts, but she's just, so like along with that, there's just a lot of feelings is the really long answer to that. So I'm not super worried about her from a developmental standpoint, but, well, sometimes I am. Are 3-year-olds like this? Someone tell me. I've talked to a few of my friends and everyone's like, girl, it's just like 3-year-olds are just like that. So I'm just going to like hope and pray that 3-year-olds are just like that. Kirsten, oh my gosh, thank you. She sent me a super chat. That's super sweet. Happy Nurse Practitioners Week. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I feel like I'm going to cry. Deep breath. Thank you for the valuable resources you provide for the weekly escape. Your videos always bring me such joy and you make me feel less alone as an MP. Oh, thank you. That's like my whole goal. And I'm so glad that that does that for you. Thank you. Guys. Should we go on? I promise we're eventually going to answer some of these questions. Oh, I just feel like, I could give you a hug. I want to go on a tangent about NP week. Can we go on or about any kind of week that is about a specific group of people? Hold on, I have to check. Okay. My parents, we're going to go on a lot of tangents. I am so sorry. I'm checking my phone and I'm going to keep checking my phone. My parents have coronavirus, both of them. So my mom's been texting me like updates. And so that's what I was looking at. I was like, I've got to manage all the things. Carrie said 3-year-olds are just the worst. Okay. I mean, 3-year-olds I found. So here's the other thing. Like Avery is so incredibly fun when she's fun and she's so funny and she's so creative and engaging. And then the other times she's like you don't remember. Like, I'm either laughing at you so hard because you're so funny, or I forget that laughter exists in this universe, or I either love you so much that I just want to squeeze you and never let go and be like, oh my gosh, I love this, or I just want to run outside and keep running. Joe, I will come back. I promise. Someone else, Kayla says 8-year-olds are the worst. So that makes me nervous because I feel like it's just going to get harder. Oh, oh my. Okay. Yep. That doesn't give me a lot of hope. Well, I heard that when people have, we get better when we're 21. That's what my mom told me, was I was better when I was 21. So it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. But even with all of that, like, we still want to have more children, which is just like, as a species, you know what I mean? Like, you can have a 3-year-old and then be like, yeah, I'll do that again. Like, the whole thing, pregnancy, threw up the whole time, bring it on. Like, hormones are wild. Hormones are insane, especially with how morning sick I got. There was a different question in there that someone had asked, and I read it and then I moved on, and I don't remember what it is now. See, that's how this is going to go. Okay. Should we actually answer a question? Yes. Let's go back and do that. Man, it's going to bother me. What was the question? Well, here we go. Let me see. Carly Youngblood said, I can't decide what I want to major in. I've thought about nursing. However, I don't know if that's the career path I truly want to do. I just remember it was about NP week. Someone reminded me to go on my tangent about weeks dedicated to people. Because it's a weird thing that I don't like. I have to have those. Can't decide if I want to go into nursing. Do you know right off that nursing is what you want to do? So I think that there's this whole myth going around in the world. This is for Carly, that nursing has to be this, and this might be controversial. I'm feeling a little controversial. We're just going to go with it. Nursing, everyone always projects as this like calling that you have to feel super like, I don't know, called to. And that it's this like, I think you do have to like people and have the desire to like help people and be willing to do things that like could be like, that might be messy, and like you're going to be in messy, uncomfortable situations, and you have to be okay with that. But at the same time, it is a job, and I don't think, like, I never had this moment where I was like, and you guys can let me know if you feel the same way. Like, I never had this moment where I was just like, oh my gosh, like, this is my calling. I was just like, I like healthcare. I know my mom is a nurse, so like, I'm pretty exposed to it. I know I like that aspect of it. I don't want to be a physician. Like, I ended up realizing that. But so like, what's something kind of like in between that like has a lot of flexibility as a career. And that's how I landed on nursing. I figured eventually down the road, I would be able to find something within this very large, like huge scope of a career that I would like. And it seemed like a good idea. I was just like, we'll make most of it. No, I'm not going to like, I didn't going into it like, this is my life's passion. I was just kind of like, well, like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I had thought about being a teacher. And that didn't like, I decided I didn't like that. So it was kind of just one of those situations where I was like, this could be interesting. So let's do that. And I feel like everyone always frames it as like, this is my like calling and my passion. I'm like, at the end of the day, like, yes, I enjoyed my job as a nurse. Like, I enjoy being a nurse, but it's not like my whole, like, you're so many other things other than that. Like, at the end of the day, it's your job. And I know a lot of people get like all really annoyed at that, but at the end of the day, it's your job. If you think it seems interesting, by all means shadow, but you're only going to shadow on that one unit. I do think getting an idea of what things are like is really helpful, but there are so many other things you can go into within nursing. There's like management, there's all sorts of administration stuff, there's case managers, there are home nurses, hospital, there's even like legal consulting. Like, there is just insurance companies. You can go work in an insurance company if you want, decide, oh, I thought I didn't want the cubicle life. And you're like, but that cubicle life, like, actually, after I've seen some things, I want that cubicle life, go work at an insurance company. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many different options. So if it seems interesting, I'm not saying like everyone should do this, but if it seems interesting, but you're just like, I'm not sure, that's okay. A lot of us were not sure. And it didn't, like, at the end of the day, it's a stable job that has a good amount of flexibility if you need it to. I worked with a lot of parents who didn't want to put their kids in daycare, so they would work every weekend, and then their spouse or their partner would work during the week. And so it gave them like, they didn't get to see each other, like the parents, but they didn't have to pay for daycare, which for a lot of people, then they could pay for a down payment on their house. You know what I mean? Because like, so if you need that flexibility, or you need to work nights, or this weird schedule that's going to pay you fairly well and be a stable job, like it does that. So if that's, I know a lot of people who do it for that reason, and that's totally fine. And then everyone comes out and they're like, oh, like it needs to be this thing. I'm like, it really doesn't though. At the end of the day, it's a job. It would be great if you liked people. It's a really weird job to pick if you don't like people. Like there's other jobs that you could just be like, go be a bartender if you're just kind of grumpy and don't like people at all. That was an excellent job when I was a bartender. And then I was like, why am I going? I went from being a bartender that was kind of grumpy and didn't like people to working on a liver floor. I was like, whoa, this was my future. Let us see. Let me scroll back up to the top. I'm trying to like see responses and answer questions, and I'm not very good at it. Let me see. Livy is listening to Christmas music. I love that. Let me see. Alessia, not in nursing school yet, but I'm waiting for my CNA courses. Which scrubs did you get? Oh, are they talking to each other? Good. People are talking to each other. Rick, good. Talking about scrubs. I'm going to scroll down and find a random one. Mark, you're so funny. I'm nervous. I am just a very regular person, I promise. Someone said I'm nervous. Liz is like a superstar to me, which gives me a very large ego, and I appreciate you, but I'm very, very normal. I thought that was my child. It was just Joe. Going to check on my child. Livy, any advice for future YouTubers? How has your YouTube experience been? So first advice, just use your phone in the beginning. I did that until I could buy equipment for everything, like out of money that I had already made. So I used my phone. If you look back at my old videos, I used my phone and a window for my light for many, many, many moons. And then after that, I slowly started adding things. And I just now this week finally bought so I'm not using it right now, but like a microphone and better lights, because the one I have right now it's atrocious. But like, so one, like equipment wise, you don't need a lot. Two, just be consistent. And I think like, that's all I did. I just like, I am literally nothing like, you don't have to be anything like special or like flashy. Some people like rise to the top really quick. I think they live like, way more exciting lives than me, which is probably why they, I don't know. And YouTube picks up random people, and they're really good at what they do. But just be consistent with it, show up, also make searchable content. So like, I really like the vlogs and like that aspect of it, but I knew that if I just did that, no one would ever like find anything or want to watch it. So I kind of try to trick all of you into watching the vlogs by also posting content videos. So let me know if that's working. So my advice would be like to make searchable things. So just go into an incognito window in YouTube and type in something you think you know about, like nursing, and see what comes up after, and then make a video on that. I used to try to do that. Some people are way better at like search engine optimization. I'm not. I just make now videos about whatever I want. And sometimes people are like, no one wants to watch that. Like next week, you're going to get a video about what I bought my kids for Christmas. No one's probably going to watch that, but I'm going to do it. So don't be me. There's a lot of Sunny Lenarduzzi, Think Media, Vanessa Lau. Those are all really good channels that teach you a little bit like about making videos. I don't really do it, but they give you some good templates. I just choose not to use them because in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to do my own thing. And then no one, I'm like, why is no one watching this? Well, Liz, you should probably just follow the advice of them. And then also just develop thick skin, because people are going to criticize you a lot. You can filter out words if you go to YouTube's settings, you can actually filter out words that come up in comments, and that will hide a lot of them from you. I have a lot of words in that. And then just realize like, not everyone's going to like you, and they're going to be really vocal about it. But as long as you like you at the end of the day, that's totally fine. So hopefully that helps. Just keep going once a week, here and there, just keep going. You can do this. Let me see. Michelle Stanley, would learning Spanish be helpful as a practitioner? I'm sure this depends on where you live. And would this help as a bedside nurse? Any foreign language will always help because interpreters are incredibly hard to come by. Spanish would definitely be helpful, especially depending on your region. It depends on where you live. I would say like Spanish for here, where I live in North Carolina, would be probably the most helpful. Secondary to, I don't know, Mandarin and Arabic. Arabic still, like when I lived in Michigan, Arabic, hands down, would have been the language to know. But any second language, that's going to look phenomenal on a resume. And it's just going to help you so much, especially if you're fairly fluent. If you're not totally fluent, you'll still need an interpreter because you want to be like able to definitely understand what your patient is saying. Especially if you're a provider, as a bedside nurse, you can, communicate like the basic things, but you would need an interpreter for the more serious conversations or an explanation of like a med if you didn't feel like I've really got a full grasp on this language. But as a provider, like you'd really have to have a solid idea. But, as a nurse, in order to be asked, like, are you in pain? Where does it hurt? Like kind of things like that, definitely helpful, but always so good. Interpreters, you either have to call them on a phone and wait on the interpreter line. And it takes so long and it's such a hassle. Or you have to have some offices. When I did clinical, they actually had an interpreter because we saw a lot of Spanish speaking people, and they actually had one of the MAs spoke Spanish, and she was like our interpreter. So you have to do it one of those ways, and either way, it's not easy. And obviously, if it's a physical person, they probably don't speak like 12 languages. There's more than 12 languages in the world. I don't know why I said 12. But yeah, for sure. Just make sure you're really comfortable with it. Let me see. Okay, good. Yes, just saying that like Spanish is really helpful. Let me see. Stephanie Paul said, do you feel that your grad programs courses prepared you for clinical and boards? I'm doing very well in my advanced pharm class. However, I still feel completely lost. So, Evangelis, who do I want? I'll answer that. I have to be careful though. Spoilers. So in terms of school, I feel like I didn't feel comfortable in clinical until I had at least 500 hours under my belt. I did 800, I think, in my whole program, maybe a little bit more. But I didn't feel like I kind of really knew a whole lot of anything until I hit 500 hours. And then I was like, okay, I can see how one day I could maybe do this. So if you're under that, you're doing fine because it's just a lot and it's hard to put all the pieces together, and it just takes a lot of repetition. So in terms of like with class, no, I didn't really feel like, that I was getting, that I was super duper prepared, but I had the tools to be prepared, if that makes sense. Like I needed assistant. I didn't know it off the top of my head, but I kind of knew where I would find it. And my preceptors helped with that a lot. I think I have a lot of opinions about NP school and nursing school. And especially with I have a lot of problems with it. If we're being honest, if you've been here, I have a lot of negative opinions about NP school. I don't think it does a good job. I think it's a lot of self-taught stuff. I think I'm going to, maybe if I'm feeling bold, make a video about like this with like the whole AMA scope creep thing that came out. I think I have a really unpopular opinion about all of that. And I think like with the way NP school is right now, like there's just not a really good foundation to stand on to try to get independent practice. Because if you look at the education, it's so like based on the school. And it's just like it varies so much, and there's no unity amongst it, and there's just not, I don't know, it's just a mess. So if I'm feeling brave and if you want to see a video like that, let me know and I'll put my YouTube career down in flames because it's not a popular opinion. But no, I don't think anything's bad at all if you don't know what you're doing, because school hasn't prepared you for that, because NP school isn't very helpful. So there's that. SimAware, this was fun. Got to run. Good night. Happy NP week all. Thanks. Have a good week, SimNP or SimAware. Quick detour onto NP week. or really any week, you're going to hear a tangent. Melissa says, please do this video. I'll do that video. And then I don't know what I'm going to do because I'll have like one subscriber. It'll be you. It'll be you too. And I appreciate you. And we'll start something. We'll go start a new NP school. NP week. We're going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. I don't like weeks that are dedicated to groups, because at least on Instagram, like I like the idea. Like I would like it if I got like a cookie or something. And people gave me flowers. I told you, I was like, it's NP week and where's my present? But I don't like on Instagram. And I was like trying to figure out why I don't like these things. And then I realized that I'm just selfish, and I don't like being left out, if we're being really honest. So on Instagram, everybody during these weeks pretty much just goes on and you make all these pretty lists, and everyone talks about themselves a lot, first of all, which is fine. Like everyone, this is like a personal problem, I'll be honest, because I don't like to talk about myself a lot. I like to talk, but I don't like, talking about myself like a whole lot, which is a weird thing for me to be doing this entire YouTube. But it's just like everyone kind of saying like, this is why this is like so great. I don't know. That part is like less of it, but then everyone goes on their Instagram stories and makes these templates. And it's like, these are my favorite NPs. And every time then you see like what your other people you kind of like talk with are posting, and you're like not on their list, but you're on some other people's list. And I'm like, what? Am I not good enough to be on your list? Like I said, totally personal problem. This is not a normal thing to be like so upset with. But lately this week, I've been feeling so, I'll be honest, like so left out, because I'm not on a lot of the lists, and I'm it just makes me like butt hurt, if we're being really honest. So I don't like NP week because I just feel left out, and I want to be on people's lists, and then I'm not. And I'm like, well, why am I not on your list? Like, what did I do wrong? When really it has nothing to do with me. They probably don't even know who I am. Valerie, it is like the MySpace top 8 all over again. Mark, thanks. I appreciate you. So that's just my own really petty reason. And I was trying to figure out all week, like, why does this rub me the wrong way? And then through, I was realizing today, I was like, oh, that's why it rubs me the wrong way, because I want everyone to like me. So there's my really petty reason. Do you guys like weeks like that? Is it actually helpful, like, to see everybody sharing that? Because I will. If it is helpful, big mood. It is. We're just being really honest. If it's helpful, I'm probably going to post some, but I don't know, because then I'm torn. I'm like, it is helpful to like see other, like, who you're following. Maybe I just won't do it this week. Maybe I'll just do like, because I do like sharing, like, these are my favorite people to follow. And I love that. And I know like so many people, they're not doing it with mean intentions. I'm just really petty. Okay. And I feel left out a lot in the world. Like, we're just getting into a whole lot. You're being my real life therapist. I feel left out a lot in the NP world because I don't have time right now to like do. We love a petty queen. Thanks. I'm being very petty, and I appreciate all of you who are sticking with me. V Feggy, I'm on Zoloft. Let's talk about it. I'm in a really weird spot in social media, which is fine, but it's kind of like you're like that weird kid on the playground, because I'm not solely academic. Like, some of what I do try to like offer helpful information, like those things I do after I do like every day on Instagram. Like, I really try to provide like some education, but also like some lifestyle. So I'm in this like really weird camp of people are either like education or their lifestyle. And I have chosen I was like, I want to do both. And just kind of like share my life, because that's what I want to see in like other people. So, and that's why I started. I was like, I just want to see like other people doing the mom thing, wife thing, school thing, job thing, like this. And so I'm kind of left out of all like the lifestyle people, because they're like, no, we don't do that. And then all the education people like always have all these cool projects and everything that they're doing. And I never get invited, because maybe they just don't like me, or maybe like, I don't know, I'm in a different club. So these weeks make me really like feel left out. So that's my very honest rant on that none of you needed to hear, but it feels good to get out. I'm not going to do BetterHelp. Instead, I'm just going to log on to here and I'm just going to tell you all of my feelings. So thanks for being my therapist. Also, how do you find a therapist, like a real one? Because that's also probably something I'm realizing as we just went through this like election and just like different changes in my life. I'm like, I probably need someone to kind of have a lot of feelings. And if we could work through them, that would be good. And I can't find one in my area that is not that I feel like I would vibe with. You know what I mean? A lot of them are just very, I don't know, not just a little bit, I'm probably a bit more crass and like way more liberal than they're used to, I guess, like, because all their things are like, like, oh, therapy for you as like a tired stay-at-home mom. And I'm like, no, like not that. And like, then it's like, we'll lead you in a lot of like ones where it's like leading you in prayer. And I'm just like, I just want a therapist who I can just be really honest with, that doesn't necessarily, we don't need to be, I don't know, like, I don't know how to find one. I listened to the Shrink Chicks podcast and I'm like, well, you're really cool. But they live in Pennsylvania. So I'm probably going to have to move to Pennsylvania just because then they can be my therapists. So that's where we are. Money finds you a therapist. America cries in the medical debt. Maybe we'll just start weekly therapy, and all of us who have absolutely no idea together, it'll just be like a live chat and we can all talk about all of our feelings and try to offer help. And it'll just be a total cluster, but maybe it'll be, maybe sounds like it would be either a total dumpster fire or really great. So you never know. But I really don't know how to find a therapist. I tried Googling some and it was just not helpful. I don't know. Let me read what some of you said. Haley said, have you always been a person that likes school? I hate school. Does nursing school help you with motivation because you're learning all the same things? So I'm not a good student, Haley. I'm not very, I get distracted. I just don't like it. I also I hated nursing school because I felt like it was petty and useless. And they were like, hey, learn all these things. And then we're going to give you these weird test questions that don't really like have anything to do with what you learned. And then if you don't pass this sim lab, you're going to hell. You're not just failing, you're going to hell. And I was just like, this is a lot. So I didn't like that. I thought we were learning a lot of junk that I wasn't going to need to know because I have an attitude and I feel like I always know better. And I procrastinate, like my life depends on it. So school and I don't get along. So if I can do it, you can do it. I hate writing papers. I hate it. I would always wait. So it does help that all of your friends are learning all of the same things at the same time to kind of get you through. And if you have a decent group with you, then it's helpful. But you do not have to be a good student. You just have to be really stubborn. And you're like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do this and we're going to get through this. And that is how you get through nursing school. I am really grateful. I've said this so many times that I was not in nursing school when social media was a big thing. So I went to nursing school like a long 10 years ago. Oh, wow. Okay. That's a moment. And social media wasn't a thing, so you weren't posting your grades. So I just lived blissfully unaware that I didn't know, I didn't see people posting like, oh my gosh, look at my straight A's. I surely didn't get straight A's, but I really was only aware of the other kind of rude girls in my class who were like, oh my gosh, I only got a 95. And that was all I had to compare it to, not the whole internet. So please don't compare yourself to others. You do not have to get straight A's, my friend. Nothing is wrong with you. Nursing school is hard. School in general is just hard. I have never gotten straight A's in my entire life. It'll be okay. Even if the internet doesn't tell you it will, just keep showing up and keep doing your absolute best and you are going to be fine. And if you have to repeat a class, you have to repeat a class. It's going to be okay. Rick, I'm reading all the comments. Thanks for chatting with each other, guys. I love it. Sweet Carmichael said, oh my gosh, that's so now all the info. And then you put 2 questions on the test and then the rest is, what the heck is this? That's so true. They'd be like, this is so important in nursing school. They're like, you really have to study about this. And then they would ask one thing. That was my entire My entire NCLEX was on like labor and delivery. I knew nothing about labor and delivery. I studied everything except for labor and delivery. And yeah, my whole test, it was all L&D. And I was like, I know the baby comes out. Side note, Avery asked me the other day, one of my coworkers was pregnant and we're going to give her a bunch of baby stuff. And she's like, why are we cleaning this? I was like, oh, because so-and-so is going to have a baby. And she's like, oh, like, where is the baby? I was like, oh, we're going down this road. I didn't think a lot of it. I was like, oh, the baby is in her tummy. And she goes, was she hungry? I was like, what do you mean? Was she hungry? She goes, she ate the baby. I was like, well, she didn't eat the baby. She's like, well, then how did it get there? And I diverted. All along, I was like, I'm going to be that parent that just tells him straight up. I was not that parent. I was like, 3 is too young. She just kept saying she ate the baby. And I was like, you know what, Avery? She ate the baby. Okay. Like, I don't think I said she ate the baby. I think I just let it be. So that's how Avery thinks babies get in tummies. And now she keeps listening to my tummy. She's like, did you eat a baby? I'm like, I didn't eat a baby. This is going to be really weird when you go back to daycare. And you ask people, did you eat a baby? Let me listen to your stomach. I'm like, okay, this is really good. Also, Kirsten, don't feel bad. She said, I'm sorry for wishing you a happy NP week. No, that is a very sweet sentiment. It is completely 100% a me problem that I have a really grumpy attitude about it. And you should never, ever, ever apologize because it's a very weird thing how petty I get about it. It really is a lot like that top 8 on, it's a lot like that top 8 on MySpace. Do you remember like switching all that around, going home and be like, oh, you're out of my top 8 now. And then the guy you liked, you'd like sort of try to keep pushing him up on the top of the list, but you couldn't put him first because that was far too forward. You had to put an away message on your AIM about, something like saying something about like love and something. And that was how you got the guy to know you liked him, obviously. 2000s romance. V. Feggy said, I am, let me see, starting Zoloft tonight and I am terrified. Oh, my friend, your life is going to get better. So it's going to get worse first and then it's going to get better. So when I started Zoloft, I have a few videos on it if you want to go watch them on my channel. One of when I started and then 2 like an update one. And then I'll do another one now that it's like working really well. So I feel a million times better than when I was not on it. And I started it, I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 months ago. And then I'm now on like a higher dose, 75 milligrams. But the first week was kind of rough. The first maybe 2 weeks, the first week was really rough. You might have side effects, hot flashes, nausea, your anxiety will probably get worse and your depression might get worse. Hopefully your provider warned you about that and you have a plan for what's going to happen if that happens. There's always like the suicide hotline. If you ever feel suicidal, stop taking it immediately. But in that first week, there is an increased risk for that because it kind of just ramps everything up. In that second week, I felt like my anxiety went back to baseline. My everything kind of leveled out except for the hot flashes and the nausea. And then the third week, things started to improve. And then by week, it takes a long time for antidepressants and anti-anxiety medicines to work. But so you just kind of had to tough it out in the beginning if you can tolerate the side effects, and it does get better. And I had really bad side effects, and I can tell you it did get better. It took me like 2 or 3 weeks. But now I am endlessly grateful that I started it and I'm feeling a lot better. And I really hope you feel better too. And don't feel like, what are you scared about with starting it? Just how you'll feel or like what other people will feel. Because I'm telling you guys, I write for Zoloft and Prozac for my patients like literally every day. I would say 70% of my patients now are on something because it like this 2020, everyone comes in and they're like, oh, I feel so like sad and weird and like, I don't want to be on medicine. I've never been on medicine. I'm like, friends, we've never been in a pandemic before. Also, like, you don't need a reason to need anti-anxiety and depression medicine. Like, if you just need it, then you need it. That's fine. No one comes in and like tries to, like logic their way out of Synthroid for a thyroid thing. Like, it's okay if you need it. Honestly, like, I probably should have been on this a long time ago looking back because I just feel so much better. My productivity in life, I will tell you, has tanked because I used to do a lot of things out of like probably self-hatred, like you're no good. You need to do all these things so you're good. This has been the best thing for my mental health and probably my family, and the worst thing in the world for productivity. Another reason why there's never any videos, because I'm just like, it's fine. Like before, I was like, if I don't have a video out every week and if I don't exercise every single day, I'm garbage. And now I'm like, I'm great. Like, you didn't do it. You worked hard though. You like kept your children alive all day. So kudos to you. You sit on that couch. You don't need to make a video. They'll still be there. It's totally fine that that's like your source of you're pretty much your only your only source of income because your real job pays for daycare. It's totally fine, Liz. You play on your phone for another hour. That's a good choice. So really bad for productivity, but excellent for mental health. And I will probably stay on it for a really long time. And you're a mood. I am. I'm in a mood, if you can't tell. I've decided it's part of the other thing. I'm like, I'm just going to be less filtered. Let me see. I said I had a bad experience on Lexapro and prescribed the mass dose and thought I was going to die. Yeah, well, you should never be put on the highest dose right away. I like to start on the lowest dose. So hopefully you are on a low dose of Zoloft. If not, break your pill in half, okay? If you need to get down to 20, I'm not telling you what to do. This is not medical advice. Don't take that advice. But perhaps talk to your provider about low and slow. So like starting at 25 milligrams and working your way up. I started at 50 because I had been on it before and I knew 50 worked last time. This time I needed more. Pandemic life. And then just keep going, and see how it goes. If it makes you feel like you want to die, then yeah, please do stop. But people I have found that did like bad on Lexapro do well on others. So Lexapro, all of them really are very hit or miss, and you usually can tell pretty early on, like this is going to work or we're going to break up right now. Mercedes says I've been on Zoloft for 4 months and I still have hot flashes. I'm having hot flashes right now from it. So I kind of ended up deciding, I was like, do I want to have hot flashes and be happy? Yeah, I guess so. With occasional nausea, sure. Why not? Probably gonna and I also, I don't know, just kind of have to just weigh the pros and cons. Kirsten said, Avery is so intuitive and inquisitive. I love your parenting style. Oh, thank you. That parenting style, when she asked about the baby, was just avoidance. I was like, you know what? No. I had grand hopes. I've planned out the whole how we're going to have that conversation. And in my mind, it went a lot different than yeah, sure, the mom eats the baby. Her other option, she was so funny. She's like, either you eat the baby or does it crawl in your butt? I was like, probably the first. Oh. Mark said, how's Piper? She's so cute. She's very cute. She's just like a little cuddle bug. Thanks for asking. She's getting some teeth. This was the very second child of me with her. She's been kind of grumpy. And I was like, you've been a real grumpy girl. And then I brushed her teeth the other day and realized she has a molar halfway in. And I'm like, oh, I missed 3 teeth that the child got. I'm like, this is all going to be fine. I hope she never watches this one day. She's been grumpy because she's hatching teeth. So that's cool. Let me see. Megan said, SSRIs and psychotherapy gave me a radically better life. Literally not the same person anymore. Yay. That makes me so happy to hear that you're feeling more you and just better. I feel like we don't talk about mental health nearly enough because it's just, and we really should. Let me see. I have been really bad at answering questions on this and I am so incredibly sorry. I feel like I've just gone on a lot of tangents, but thanks for coming along with me. Normally I try to get to a ton of questions and I think I've gotten to 3. So sorry. Let me see. Ashley, oh, thank you. Should I give up trying to apply to nursing school if I have a medical history of anxiety or depression? No, I wouldn't. I would just go and manage your anxiety and depression and then go for it. So many nurses that I know have a struggle with anxiety and depression. And as long as it's managed, it's fine. If you are a nurse just because of it could be pretty, you're experiencing a lot and it can be really anxiety provoking in the beginning. And kind of just depressing as you keep going. If it's not well managed and you don't have either medication or therapy or your own outlets that work for you, well established in place, then it's probably going to be a little bit hard. But that's probably going to be any job. You know what I mean? Any new job is going to be hard if you don't have those coping mechanisms in place. So I would say it would definitely not be a deal breaker at all. Let me see. Um, Ian said, I'm about to graduate and I think I don't like bedside nursing. Any tips? If you, then don't take a job in bedside nursing. Like I said, there's a ton of different jobs. You can get a job at a clinic. You can get a job doing, like I wouldn't jump into necessarily home health right away just because you're really independent in that. But anything like in any outpatient office, are you more interested in that? What seems, what interests you? And then kind of go based on that. Reading some of these comments. I'm in mode, bitch. Yeah, it's true. Let's see. But yeah, anyway, my brain is scattered. Find like anything that interests you and just go into that. So do you like education? What do you like? You do not have to go into bedside nursing right away. Most of the jobs are in bedside nursing, so you might just have to wait a little bit while longer. It is probably easier to move into one of those other interesting, like not interesting, but like different traditionally nursing jobs if you have bedside experience. But if it's going to make you miserable, bypass that and just find something else you like that would be more interesting. V Faggy said yes, 25. Okay, good. So you're starting super duper low on Zoloft. Good. Low and slow is always good. Vintage Panda. Oh, thanks. Let me see. Yeah, I did have rough months in there. Someone was saying I seem happier. Thanks. I feel happier. Those were some rough ones. Afer said you have beautiful children. Oh, thank you. Please relax during in-P school, and P school is rough. I got the sex talk after watching Rocky Horror Picture Show. I feel like that would be really, really interesting. Like really, were you just like, what was that? Have you guys seen the Rocky Horror or gone to the Rocky Horror Picture Show? Oh my gosh. I went once on, I've been to it a couple times. Someone I used to work with was in it. And so we would like go sometimes after work. But I went to the first time I ever went to like a Rocky Horror Picture Show was on a haunted boat in California. What was it, like the Queen Mary or something? Yeah. That was not wise. I was very young. I lied about how old I was in order to get in. And yeah, terrified. 10 out of 10, do not recommend. I was like, I'm going to be hard. This is going to be fine. I was like, this is really weird. Kayla said, I'm in my last semester of nursing school. I'm not exactly sure where I want to work, but I really like cardiology. Do you have any suggestions on where to start? I started wherever I could get a job. So if you have more options available to you, just go and interview and see what you like. You really don't know until you work it. You know what I mean? And you're allowed to hop around, do a little here, do a little there. Once you start somewhere, you'll probably get an idea of what you like. Like, do you like surgical things where it's like, we'll fix you and we'll send you out? Do you like more of the medical side where it's like, you might be here for a while, friend? Like, this is not a quick fix. Do you like educating and doing a lot of that? Maybe you will like then more a general floor. Do you like high acuity where your patient is intubated and about to die at any second? Then the ICU might work for you. Do you like them to not be conscious at all ever? OR. You know what I mean? Like, do you want to work in a more of an office setting, like doing a lot more like phone triage? Maybe an office would work. So you can just dabble your toes in different ponds and see like what makes you feel happy. Abigail said Avery's baby conversation is classic toddler logic. Obviously you eat it or shove it in there. Yep. I was like, oh my. Let's see. Josh said, I'm under the impression that every fellow nurse in my ICU has anxiety and is well medicated. It's probably true. I feel like a lot of the nurses that I worked with when I was a new nurse, it was just like everyone was on something, like a little bit of Zoloft. Probably says a lot about maybe we should have better working conditions if you can you are passing out all of your evening meds and then everyone's phone's going off like, time to take your Zoloft as well, my friend. Like, and you all get together. We used to have like a literal, that's what it was. Like it was at 10 p.m. every day and everyone's phones would go off and we would all gather and everyone would take their own meds. So like we all took our birth control and like anxiety meds or whatever else everyone was on. We'd all like just meet up together and all just, not get back. But ours was mostly like, I feel like we were all on the pill. We were all like, okay, did you get yours yet? Did you take yours? We're all, priorities. Let me see. Nurse Nice says, "Hi, I'm finishing NP school in a few months, and I've been offered is it a Department of Nursing position at a hospice company for a major hospital. What do you think about that? Would you be using your like if you want to do it, sure. Would you be using like a ton of your NP like knowledge? I mean, if that's what you want to do, like you won't be my only concern with that would be like if you then later want to go into practice in like actual practice, that transition would be harder because if you went from like NP school to more of an administration role, it would be harder to go into a practice because you never had that like foundation because you learn a lot in the beginning. When you graduate from NP school, you learn like a lot about how to do the job. So if you never had that, it'd be really hard to revert back to it. But if you think you only want to go into more like a management position with it, well, then by all means, like that's a great stepping, and that sounds like a phenomenal opportunity, especially if you have experience with that patient population already. But if you're like, I'm going to do that, and like with my dream of being in, like family medicine, that might be a really hard jump just because you never had those initial years right out of school. Let me see. OR is great for nurses who don't like people. Oh, I'm often surprised. It's true. I'm often, OR nurses are just really like PACU nurses. We're just like a unique breed, like really unique. At our hospital, they were all like older and their threshold of like, I don't know, they were just like odd. They would wheel you up these kids. Like they just wanted to go home and they would wheel these kids up to you that are like legitimately breathing like maybe 6 times a minute. And they're like, oh yeah, they're great. Like they're on the phone. They're like giving you a report. They're like, oh yeah, they're so great. They're so awake. They're crying. Like they've even had apple juice, and they would bring them up and the kid is like literally breathing 6 times a minute, which is not enough. Totally floppy and like not anywhere near conscious. And they're like, all right, bye. And you're like, no, Susan, you're going to have to stay. That's what I think of whenever I think of PACU nurses is they always would like drop them off and they're like, bye. And you're like, this person should be intubated. Please stay. Let me see. Babe T said 3 more semesters, 1 of clinicals left. Did you work full-time while in clinicals? So are you talking about NP school? If you're talking about NP school, I did work full-time while I was in clinical so I did 2 years of clinical. And the first year I did work full-time. So I worked every weekend in order to have availability during the week for clinical because it was hard enough to like find a clinical site. So like I wanted to have my availability wide open. So I did work full-time just every weekend in that second year. And then the third year was when I had Avery at the beginning of the third year. And I couldn't do everything. So I went to part-time at work and then did full-time clinical and all of that. So I did full-time for the 1 year, and I would have been able to keep going if I hadn't had an Avery. But at that point I couldn't. And there also weren't like enough days in the week because I had to do clinical 3 or 4 days. And then I ran out of nights because I worked nights. So it just like I was out of days, and it was too much. Let me see. Ryan said, hi Liz, totally random question, but I've been trying to find a lipstick color like the ones you usually wear. What color is that? Much love for New Orleans. Oh, thanks. So it's by Maybelline. I get it at Target. Very fancy. It's called Matte Ink, and it looks like, I think I have it saved somewhere on my Instagram maybe. It's called Superstay Matte Ink, and the color is Seductress. So I put just a tiny bit on. I scrape most of it off the wand. That's key. Otherwise the color's a little odd. Scrape most of it off and then apply it just a little bit, and it gives you that nice, my goal is to look kind of like I'm not trying too hard. Obviously, I'm not trying too hard with my makeup since now all I wear is I fill in my eyebrows that have fallen out and I put on a little mascara. So that's where we are. Let us see. all the peds, Zan said, all the peds job I'm looking at require a BSN and I'm graduating with my ADN in May. Any advice for finding a job? Could you put, like, do you have any interest in getting your BSN? Because a lot of hospitals, it depends on where you live. Some hospitals in some areas are all about hiring ADN nurses. Most of the ones where I've lived will hire ADN nurses if they are actively bridging to their BSN because they're like magnet and they all want everybody to have their BSN, even though you don't learn anything in your BSN. We all have to pay more money into the nursing system to learn nothing. We talked about how I think nursing school is dumb. But if you are bridging, put that on your resume and reach out to them and just say like, hey, I am going to have my BSN. I'm just not quite there yet, and see how that goes. Like, is that enough to convince them? I hope it is, because they would be lucky to have you. Our Baba said, my charge nurse committed suicide a few weeks ago. That's horrible. How do you deal with the death of a colleague? I don't know. I'm so sorry. I never have had I don't think I've had a death of a colleague, but that is just so incredibly hard. I am sorry. Yeah, that's totally different than like a patient death. Cause I was going to say, I kind of have coping strategies for like when your patients pass. Oh, I don't even know. Cause you can't even like take a ton of time off probably. Cause it's like everyone's affected by it. I am so sorry. I hope you were getting just some time to like, just be sad. And oh, that just breaks my heart. Especially if it was someone like, not that like especially, but like in a leadership position. That's just, that's hard. I'm sorry. Why did you decide, this is from Evangeline, why did you decide to become a nurse practitioner and what's your favorite thing about it? That's a long answer. I think I have a whole video on that of like what I like about it. Mostly I became an NP because I saw all my patients on my med surg floor with like horrible, really late stage like diabetes and kidney failure and all sorts of other complications. And they just didn't have a knowledge of what their disease process was. And I was like, I wish I could find you like 10 or 15 years ago and just teach you what diabetes is and kind of like why it matters to control your blood sugar and find a plan with you to make you feel empowered to like change things so we don't end up here with your toes falling off. And so that's why I wanted to go into it. And my favorite thing is when I get to have those conversations. And that's really rewarding. And I really like that aspect of it. We'll focus on the aspects that I really like. Steffi said, did you finish your NP in university or private? I don't know, like you're asking like a state school or a private school. I went to Michigan State, so it was a state school because it was a lot cheaper and the program was well reviewed in my area. My other option was like U of M, and that was like 3 times as much. And I was like, you know what? No. Let's see. Have you heard about, Claire Cowan said, have you heard about the bill in Michigan that would, is it Michigan or I think, Michigan that would allow community colleges to offer BSN programs? I'm intrigued. That would be cool. That would make it so much more accessible because BSN programs are intensely expensive and it's a huge, Michigan really likes, a lot of the hospitals are magnet and they want you to have your BSN in order to get a job. But the schools, it's so incredibly prohibitory to get into the schools if you have to pay that tuition. So it like chops out so many people who don't want all that debt. So that would be, I think, phenomenal. Michigan did do a good job. I will say they had a lot of really cool community colleges that provided an excellent nursing education. And then they partnered with other local state schools. So when you applied to the nursing program, and I wish more schools would do this, you would apply to the nursing program at the community college and you could apply for a track that would spit you out with your BSN and you automatically like were admitted to the bridge program at the state school. So you would finish your ADN and then you could start working, or you could just kind of like finish up your other classes real quick with the state school, but you didn't have to reapply. And I thought that was really cool. I think more people should do that. More places should do that. Let me see. That's what I think, but MSU sent out an email to alumni to try to get us to write a senator and discourage it. Oh, well, I wonder why MSU wanted to discourage it. Probably because they have a nursing program and would like you to just go to theirs and pay them a whole heck of a lot more money. So everything is always about money. always about money. And that kind of makes me sad. I miss you, if we're being honest. Get your life together. Okay. I think I'll do like one more and then I did a really bad job at answering questions and I'm really bad. I'm really sorry. I went on too many tangents. Oh, I'm sorry, but we'll answer one more. Avery Woodruff. Great name, Avery. Have you experienced vaccine hesitant parents or patients? How do you approach those conversations where a parent may not want to vaccinate? So I have, we don't see kids that are under 3 anymore because we couldn't keep actually all the vaccines like stocked. Like you have to give a lot of vaccines because they expire. So like we weren't giving enough, so they were expiring. So we don't see them anymore. So I'm seeing a lot, like I don't see quite as many. I do see a lot of vaccine hesitant patients as well as vaccine hesitant parents, especially like HPV or any of their like vaccines they're going to get more in their childhood and teenage years. And it is, at my practice, we don't require vaccination. Some places, like even if kids, because well, then we'll get them when we have a couple 3-year-olds. And so like we technically do not require that to stay at the practice, they have to get that 4-year-old batch of vaccines that they get pre-kindergarten. And we do have a couple families that decline them. And it's always I'm not very good at that conversation. And it's a huge reason why I didn't go into pediatrics because I didn't want to, let me see, there's shenanigans. Okay. Let me see. Let me see. Okay. Thanks for alerting me, friends. I should probably have a moderator. Maybe I should get my sister to, moderate these, but, what was I even talking about? Oh, vaccine hesitancy. I try to approach it with understanding what they're nervous about. If they are hardcore, like this is never something I'm going to be interested in, and then are just really nasty, that's a really hard battle to fight. And so I will kind of just like say like what are your hesitations about it? And if they're just like totally combative, I'm usually just like, I'm going to give you this information. Like, I'm going to remind you at every appointment. Like, I think this is what's best for your child. Like we have, we can prevent these, but I don't, fight like hardcore with those people because it'll just turn into a fight. The people that it's much more effective with in terms of talking about vaccines is people who have legitimate fears, because fear is fun. Like it's okay to have questions. And so when people come and they're like, oh, I've seen this, and you can have a rational conversation. No, I don't have Michelle was like, why wasn't your moderator doing their job? I appreciate you being the lookout person. I probably should get a moderator. That's probably something that would be helpful. But no, I don't have one. Maybe I'll make my sister be a moderator. Oh, because people come into these chats and say crazy things. What was I talking about? Oh, so people who are like vaccine hesitant, just kind of like meeting them where they're at and answering their questions. Behind blue eyes, good night. Have a good night. Thanks for chatting. And you like meeting them where they're at and answering their specific questions and not coming at it in an aggressive way. I used to have like quite a soapbox, and then I realized that wasn't super effective. I have a video about how I talk about the flu shot that kind of gives you a demonstration of like how I talk about it if you want to search for that. There's a lot of trolls on that video too. And it's pretty much just like targeted, but trying not to come from a huge place of like judgment. And I think a lot of that has come into too, like since I've had my kids. Obviously, I am a Becky O'Loughlin. I volunteer as tribute for moderating. I mean, for sure, by all means, if you want to moderate. I like when you have kids, then you're like, even like, I'm very like, obviously, like, I think overall this is good. I mean, like, you can't say that nothing bad ever happens from them, but overall the net benefit is like vastly more than like, obviously like this, negative things. But like when it's your kid, then you're like, oh my gosh. So since having my kids, I have really been able to like empathize with parents too and be like, I get it. Like, I think we've all had that moment before we go and give them all these precious babies, these shots where you're like, even like I'm so educated and passionate about vaccination but even that, like I hesitated and I was like, oh my gosh, like I am injecting these things into my baby. Like, and the thoughts came there and they were like, is this the right thing to do? And I researched the heck out of it, like on my own. Cause I was like, I went through this thing where I was just like, oh my gosh, like I need to really decide that this is like right for me. And then went down this rabbit hole and decided it was. But, yeah, I think it gave me a lot of empathy for parents who have fear because you just love them. Like it's and trying to remind myself that these parents are, for the most part, there's definitely like some that are all just extra. For the most part, parents who are really vaccine hesitant are doing it from a place of love and just being very scared for their child, or they've been in a situation where, something really awful has happened and they're coming from a place of like protection and love, and trying to approach it like with that attitude, if that makes sense. Let me see. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. I think I'm going to go ride my Peloton and try to motivate myself with the vibe of versus forcing myself to exercise out of self-loathing. We're just going to do it out of like, let's do it because it's good for me. So I heard they have a Beyonce ride now. I don't know. I'm like excited, but I think Tunde and Alex did it together if you are Peloton people. And that is a terrifying combination. Like I love Tunde, but her rides are really, they're intense. Let me see. Can I bring guest speakers onto my channel? Friends, I don't know how to do that. I would love to, but I don't know how to do that. Like I don't understand. I would like Alyssa all day to be a guest. Yes, eventually we're going to do a live together. Both of our lives are just like crazy right now. I'm actually texting her right now, or I was right before this. I don't know how to do like a Zoom or like anything like that then comes onto my screen. I don't know how to have guests. So maybe if I figure that out, then I would be able to do that. But at this point, I don't know how to do that. So, yeah, maybe one day there will be guests, but for now, there are no guests. All right, friends, thanks for hanging out. I know I didn't get to a ton of questions and I am sorry. I went on a lot of tangents and apologize, but I mean, we all knew what we were getting in for. It was we all knew. I use Streamlabs. Okay, I will Google that to bring guests and fans on all the time. I use Streamlabs. That sounds complicated because it involves the word streaming. And I've tried looking into streaming things before because I wanted to like share my screen and I was immediately intimidated and stopped because it involved a lot of steps and keys and yeah. So maybe one day I'll get Joe to show me how, but maybe. Let me see. Until that day, I don't know. But thanks for hanging out, friends. I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening. If I didn't get to your question, I'm very sorry. I was very distractible tonight, as you can see. But thanks for hanging out with me and listening to all of my ranting and letting me have you be my therapy. So let's all try to get therapy for everyone, right? That would just be a delight. Maybe we'll have a Discord server. I don't really know what that is, but that sounds like maybe a giant chat room and it can just be our therapy sessions together. Yeah, let me know what you think. All right, guys, have a good night. Bye. Let's see. And maybe, yeah, okay.